Hey there YouTube and new fountain pen users. I'm Joe and you're watching my channel Ink and Iron, and today I'm going to show you how to ink up and use a brand new fountain pen. So if you're new to the community and you're looking for some guidance, this can be a good starting point. This is going to be a fairly basic overview of what you can expect with a fountain pen. You should know there are many varieties of fountain pen and ways that fountain pens are built. So that is something to make note of. And just to simplify what you're going to see in the rest of the video, this part is the cap. This part where you grip is called the section. You can think of it as the grip section. The section should interact with your ink reservoir. In this case, this is called a converter or cartridge converter. This steel portion is the nib. This portion underneath the nib is called the feed, and the nib and feed are set in the section. On top of the section, it wears a barrel, which is the majority of the body of the pen, and that's the part that actually rests against your hand and outside of your grip. So, there you go, little fountain pen anatomy 101. And the very first step you'll want to do when you get a new pen, besides admire it, is take it over to a sink and flush it out. So we're going to cut to a scene where I show you how I do that. Thing I do is get a cup that I don't mind getting dirty, and I go ahead and fill it with just cold, clean tap water. This should be sufficient for flushing out a brand new pen with no ink in it. The next step is remove the cap and barrel and get down to just the nib feed section, and in this case a cartridge converter. This one is a screw type converter, so as you turn the back end, which is a knob, it moves a piston up and down. When you retract the piston, it sucks water up via the nib and feed, and then you push it back down and it shoots the water out the nib and feed to help clear out any manufacturing dust and particulate. The key here is submerging the nib and feed fully all the way up to the section, and then pulling up your flushing liquid and then pushing it back out. You can expedite this process with this. This is called a bulb syringe. This is often used for medical purposes, actually. I've seen people stick this up a baby's nose and pull out mucus because they don't know how to clear their noses properly. However, it is great for sucking up other liquids and blowing them where you need to, such as pen flush through a pen section, nib, and feed. And I would highly recommend spending a few dollars, especially if you plan on staying in the fountain pen hobby. Having one of these bulb syringes around is a lifesaver. So once you're done flushing with water, or whatever pen flush you happen to have, I like to give mine a pen a thorough rinse just with cold, clean water, just to make sure I got every little bit of particulate out that I could. I've sped up this footage because all I'm doing here is pushing out all the water and then shaking the nib point down into the sink to use gravity and acceleration to my advantage and fling the water out of the cartridge converter and the nib and feed. You can also take the bulb syringe and stick it on the back when it has just air in it and push the air through the nib and feed just for a little bit of extra oomph in expelling the excess moisture and water from your nib and feed, because the very next step after this is going to be drying. And the reason we dry our pens is so that we get a better representation of our ink after we've filled it. So for now, set this pen aside somewhere, disassembled to dry. Once your pen is dry, go ahead and reassemble it and assess the condition. You may notice there are two pens now. I did ink this up and do an explanatory video already using this ink. This is ColoradoPen.com's Moonstone, but the audio got messed up, so we're doing take two with this guy. This is basically the same pen, the Asa Wizard. So yeah, I'm just going to use a different ink inside of it, which is right in here. A review of this ink is actually coming up real soon. I'm going to shoot it today. So let's get this thing inked up. Let's take the cap and barrel off, get down to just this, and however you draw ink into your ink container is what you're going to need to figure out. A lot of pens will have a converter like this, but not all converters are made the same. There are a lot of proprietary type converters. So I'm just going to show you this as a basic one. This is the Schmidt, I believe. Yeah, the Schmidt K5. This is a very common converter with a standard international tip on it. So let's open up our ink. This is how I like to shake an ink bottle. Just rock it back and forth. This doesn't introduce too many bubbles or anything, but it does give the ink a nice mix before using it in your pen. Okay, once you've got that, highly recommend having paper towel nearby and also maybe some blotting paper. This is what I like to open my ink bottles over. Ooh, a little pressure in there. Oh, boy, they really fill these to the brim. All right, let's go ahead, move this very carefully. We want to submerge the nib and feed all the way up to partially onto the section. This will ensure we have an airtight seal with the liquid, and then we will draw our piston up, pulling a vacuum into here and thus drawing ink into the converter. So make sure the piston's all the way down, dip it in there, make sure we're sealed, and pull it up very gently because I don't want to spill this. Okay. Ooh. It's almost a nice like royal blue. I like to just gently wipe the feed on the edge of the ink bottle. Try and start getting some of that excess off. Okay, before I move my hands too much, I'm going to replace the cap and screw it on to a point where I feel like I'm not gonna knock over an open bottle of ink. Trust me when I say you don't want to do that. Okay, here's where the paper towel comes in. Gonna just wipe off any excess. Really, you want to clean the section as much as possible because you're going to put your hands on it. You can leave some ink on the nib. It does look kind of cool, and it also is a reminder of what kind of ink is actually in there. So I am going to leave a little bit on there. Just touch the feed real quick, make sure it's not totally loaded with ink, but it does have a very good amount. So this should write straight away. Anytime you fill from the nib in, it saturates the nib and feed, and you can write like immediately. If you were sticking a cartridge in this pen and waiting for the ink to flow to the tip, it might take anywhere between 5 and 15 minutes if it's really taken its time. All right, looks like we got some ink flow. Let's double check here. This is a Rhodia dot pad. I just did a video on this with my Pilot friction pens. So let me bring this camera closer. Okay, I changed my mind. I flipped the page over for a cleaner look. So once your pen is inked up, anytime I'm trying out a new ink or a new pen, I like to just note that somewhere in my writing. So this is the Wizard by Asa Pens. This is a company out of India. Do some loops. You can also do figure eights. What I'm looking for is general smoothness of the nib. Kind of go in multiple directions, vertically, push and pull. One thing I really like to do is what I call like fireworks, sort of star shapes that assess how a nib feels in multiple directions. This one feels pretty much the same in all directions. There's maybe this motion, this pushing up and to the left. It could use a little bit of smoothing. We'll go over smoothing and tuning a nib in a different video, but overall this is performing rather well. This does appear to be a pretty dry writing ink, which is interesting because it doesn't, maybe that's why it doesn't feather. Let me see, can I smear it? You can smear it. Huh, okay. Again, ink review coming soon. I'm still testing this stuff out. So yeah, what you're looking for is general smoothness of the tip. This is a broad nib. I guess I should, this is a Jowo spelled with a J and a W. Jowo nib, broad. and this is made of steel. Yeah, fine nib. The weight of the pen is working for me. I generally like my pens to kind of sit in my hand like this. You can see I have just one finger that it's resting on, and then onto the webbing of my hand here. This is how I like a pen to sit. For you, it might be a little different. You might like it weighted a little more forward, in which case you could take off the cap and that'll move the balance point forward. Some people like to pull it back, so back weight it with the cap, or with, you know, something on the end of the pen to make it lean back a little bit. I like a nice sort of balanced pen. I think really no cap is about perfect for me, but it posts so well that I just don't like a cap rolling around on my desk if I don't need it. Yeah, this is a nice nib. If we were getting, instead of smooth lines, continuous flow, if we had any sort of gaps in the pen's writing, so instead of smooth line it sort of does this where it kind of blanks out for a bit, we know we have some issues that need to be addressed, and they can be either the nib or the feed, or the ink. The ink sometimes is a factor. However, when you clean out a pen, it really eliminates a lot of trouble you're going to have from the ink side of this equation. So yeah, as long as you flush your pens, you're good to go for assessing them. And if you have any major problems, get in contact with your manufacturer. But yeah, that's it. You can always, you know, rate the alphabet, do whatever you gotta do. You can also hold it upside down and write this way. This is called reverse writing. Not every pen can do it. This one, not so much. Not really. So yeah, there you go. And I encourage you to find your writing angle as well. Writing angle describes the angle that you're approaching the paper with your nib. Like perfectly vertical would be like if you're a calligrapher making use of a nib in this position for maximum flex and control. Most people write somewhere around here, like a 45 degree. I find myself maybe a little lower than that. Something like this. It's probably about, I don't know, 40 degree angle. So test out a writing angle that works for you. We will have another video about how to improve your handwriting with a fountain pen as well, or just in general with a pen. But yeah, there we go. The Asa Wizard. We have inked it up. We have tested it out. Honestly, if you're going to take away anything from this, do these stars. The stars are an excellent way to assess where a nib is dissatisfying to you and the direction that it needs to go in. You can also do them, you know, in towards the center if you're so inclined. I'm better at drawing them center out. Okay, and yeah, now's a great time to get into the fountain pen hobby, so I hope this helps you stay in it. For more videos, feel free to subscribe to my channel and hit the bell to get my notification when I make more stuff. Anyway, I've been Joe, you've been watching Ink and Iron, and I've had a really good time showing you how to ink up a pen. So if y'all have any more questions, please let me know in the comments. Quick little look at the Colorado pen. Colorado, it's hard to write and speak at the same time. Pen.com. This is their Moonstone ink, just so you could see it next to Anti-Feather Blue. Okay, so good luck out there cleaning your pens, inking them up, trying them out. Now's a great time for this indoor hobby. Offers a lot of creative freedom, and wish you the best of luck. I've been Joe, you've been watching Ink and Iron, and I'll catch you on the next one.